God of the universe, maker of the stars, who am I that you would know my name?
Welcome to Life on Purpose. I believe it's episode 47. We've had a couple of weeks off, and Daniel, we're missing one person out there. Ryan Cribbs is in the process of a lot of life changes right now and is not able to be with us. But how life has changed over the last 2 weeks, hasn't it?
Yeah, it is crazy going to Sukkot, doing all that, and then I think the topic we'll be talking about. But yeah, it's been wild. It's been crazy. I hope you guys you had a wonderful Sukkot, and that you guys are good and safe though too.
It was interesting. I was down in Florida at a Sukkot gathering, and I had my time all planned out. Okay, the best laid plans of men and mice, and I had all my messages planned and everything, and it got totally changed. And I'm like, what in the world's going on? And so last week, Monday of last week, I stood up in front of the group there in Old Town, and my teaching was on Israel and praying for the peace of Jerusalem and all that goes along with that, not knowing that in just a few days after that, we would turn our televisions on, our news feeds, and find out that on the day after the eve, or on the day after the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War, Israel would once again be back in war. So your initial thoughts, Daniel, let's go to you first.
Yeah. So for the length of Sukkot, it felt very off for me. And to kind of skip ahead and then rewind, we were hosting the last day of Sukkot at our house that last night, and that was Saturday. And so Saturday morning we got the news, and so obviously just it takes a while to sink in, like what's really, like, that it's really happening, and what is really happening. And so, a few hours later on the afternoon, I sent out a text to everyone that was coming and said, hey, we're going to be still meeting, but this is going to have heavy emphasis on prayer for Israel, coming together. And I said some other things in there. I'm sure we'll touch on some of those topics. But when everyone was there, I mentioned the same thing, that Sukkot felt very off to me. And one of the ladies immediately said, that's the third time I've heard that from all separate people. And I had also talked to someone separate. So there's 5 people, just in that one setting, that have all said this Sukkot just felt strange, not really being able to describe it, but multiple people put it this exact way, that the feeling of Yom Kippur, or kind of the solemnity, followed through Sukkot. Yeah. And I think it's very interesting that people put it that exact way, knowing that this was the 50th anniversary of the Yom Kippur War. So as all that unfolded, to me, it became relatively obvious that if we are joined to Hashem, if we have any amount of focus on his land, on the land of Israel, if you have joined yourself to his name, to his land, then you have linked yourself spiritually to something bigger than you. You've attached yourself to something bigger. And that something bigger is not just a physical thing, it's a spiritual thing. And when you enter this spiritual war, when you enter this spiritual realm, things start happening that you can't quite understand, that you can't articulate or explain. And so for all of Sukkot, what was happening, I believe, was that we were unknowingly sensing the disturbance in the spiritual realm, because this thing has been planned both by powers and principalities, and also the people that these principalities influence. And so I feel like we were kind of sensing in our spirits that something was wrong, something was going to happen. And so those were my first thoughts, was just that that feeling was there the whole time, and then it became obvious what it was that last day.
Interesting.
Wow.
The only thing I would go back to your statement there is to call these people men. I'm having a hard time with that word.
Mhm.
Somewhere,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't even want to call them animals, because I do not want to insult the animal, the animals of creation. I don't know what these people are. Demonically filled entities, I guess, would be the best word for me. So, David?
Yeah, man, like you're actually that tail end there. I wanted to really emphasize that is our Sukkot. It felt like Sukkot was we had gone through all of Sukkot halfway through. So it felt like it was extra longer than usual. Like it
Mhm.
was like, what is going on? It was a different kind of I think what you guys were saying, but in a way it was the same because it was amazing. Our Sukkot ended up hitting the ground running with testimonies and some extremely powerful testimonies that immediately got the ball rolling into the spiritual realm, like you were talking about.
Mhm.
It immediately got everyone talking about spiritual matters. It immediately got talking. So I can't tell you how many campfire talks I had with so many even younger people that I think for a long time just went, you know what, that's just a bunch of whatever stuff.
Yeah.
There's no one really knows the answer to going, you know what, I've always struggled with this. I've always dealt with this. And so then that conversation led up to then all of a sudden the news coming out.
Yeah.
And that psalm just ran through the camp. It's like everyone knew something was like off in that day, and immediately prayer started happening. We even actually have some people that are over Israel now
Mhm.
that
Mhm.
I don't know what the correct word is. Trapped was one word thrown around, but they were still fine and safe. I don't know if airports are still closed. There's so much information out there. I don't even know what's true, what's not, but there's so much out there. But as it kept getting worse, the social media videos then started pouring in, and it went from like, oh wow, this is whoa, like okay, is this just a little skirmish to like, oh wait a minute, this is way more than just a little thing. This is way more. And anger was definitely a emotion felt. Um, yeah, like not really calling them people because seeing the actual video of what was happening was just immense.
You know,
Yeah, that was definitely a weird way of ending Sukkot for sure. And
yeah.
uh,
And of course, the media or the internet is being scrubbed right now of a lot of the videos that came out. For
mhm,
those that are not aware of, these were people that these demonic influenced entities came into Jewish homes, that there were sirens going off. So these people went into their bomb shelters, which most every home in Israel has a bomb shelter. And if the people didn't come out, they set the house on fire so that those people would burn in that bomb shelter. The people that they took hostage, and this is Americans also and people from other countries, uh, they many of them were beheaded. There are reports now of babies, their throats being slit, beheaded, their bodies dragged through the streets of Gaza. The atrocities that are here are just too much to even consider, that a person could be able to go there. I don't have a box for something like that.
mhm.
So we can get into
Yeah.
some of those things later. I just, Daniel, you kind of hit on it there, but I want to come back to it again. Okay, I grew up, I'm, obviously a little bit older than you guys. I was alive during the 6-Day War in 1967. In my home, there was that I know of, there was no talk at all of Israel. I never remember one conversation regarding Israel. I grew up in a Baptist church. Don't remember it. I was in junior high school in 1973, the Yom Kippur War. I do not remember that. Why? Because no one told me that what was happening in Israel was relevant to me. So I'd like
Mhm.
you two guys to kind of unpack this a little bit. and explain to our listeners from your perspective, both of you having been to the land, both of you having walked the streets of the land. Why is it that someone in your age group, younger, older, but specifically those that are, you're planning a family, you have your business, you have all of these things going. Why should you care what is happening 7,000 miles away? Daniel, David, Daniel, you want to add it? Go to it.
Jump in.
I don't know. David looks pretty ready.
Okay.
All right, I'll jump in.
That means he wants to think about it, David.
Yes, please. I was like, there's a lot of things to unpack and think about with this for sure. Because at first, that's like my first initial reaction was, oh, something's always happening over there.
Yeah.
That's the initial reaction. Something's always happening over there. But then as more and more information started coming out, and then you start going, okay, is that fake news or is that actually real? Because we've just seen that just a year or two prior with Ukraine, Russia stories coming out. And then you realize, oh, they were all fake. So you're like, okay, let me just sit back and let me just digest this and just see what happens. But instead of it like escalating and then de-escalating with more reports coming out and deciphering which was real and what was not, it seemed to just escalate. You're just like, okay, what the heck is going on? And you start looking into it and you start realizing how bad it was getting over there. Because we've seen bad stuff like this happen in other places, but when it comes to this place, I mean, with it being the land, we have a lot of like on top of just the idea of the war. There's a lot of prophetic implications we can go into. Like how many Bible verses have people quoted that are just almost paralleling what's happening right now, that's wild.
Yeah, so Amos 1:7.
Yeah, about to say we have tons of different verses that are actually really explaining what's happening now. And there's no end right now. We don't see where this ends. We don't know who's going to step in. We don't know where this ends. But there's drastic measures taken on both sides. So what does that mean? It could mean a lot of things. It could mean things financially. Yeah, there's other countries could get involved, just like the whole Ukraine-Russia thing. Okay, that's one thing, but that's not really the most important part. I think the big part is a lot of prophetic implications of seeing, okay, we have our homeland being attacked. They're fighting back now because this was taken on October 10th. So we don't know so when you're listening to this, we do not know further what's happening, what the UN's going to do, what the United States is going to do, what all these other countries are going to do. They're saying a lot of stuff, but we have no idea, because every time a nation has gotten involved with Israel in the past, whenever they were defending themselves rightly, and a nation stepped in to try to stop it or to hinder Israel or give all this stuff back, usually you start seeing a nation judged by that. And I don't think we're not very much a political show, but I think when it comes to the politics in the United States, has not been the greatest politics in a while. So we're not holding our breath for great decision making on our leaders in this country. We really pray and hope, though, that we will make good decisions, of course, but that remains to be seen what we're going to see. So when a nation judges on behalf of a nation that's under God, that's a pupil of his eye, woe to that nation, especially if they are incorrect in their judgment and their assessment. Or Israel's allowed to do whatever it wants, and it pushes out a lot of the bad riffraff that's in there. I think Israel then also has an opportunity as the political shape that it might be able to ratify or fix a lot of the bad stuff that's happened, because a lot of the hopefully, I pray that bad people will be wiped out, gone, eliminated forever, and we'll never see that app will never ever show itself again. But we understand and know that not until our Messiah comes will there be true peace. So I look at this whole ramping up of stuff. If it doesn't stop, Messiah might be just right around the corner. He's always around the corner, but we might be way closer to the corner than we realize. So that's really neat. I think that was right off the top of my head. There might be other thoughts as we talk later on, but that's something where I'm thinking.
All right, let's throw it over to Daniel.
So my question is to our listeners who are, as you described them, Dad, people of our age. Why does this matter? And my question is, who are you, and who do you want to be? When you imagine yourself as the years progress, are you the kind of person that people think of as one who will be like the water and just take on whatever shape is around you? Are you a chameleon, just blending into whatever's around you? Or will they think of you? Do you want them to think of you as someone who has clearly defined lines? And I think that is why this is important to us, to my age group, to people younger than me, is God really, really hates lukewarm, the people who are lukewarm. In Revelation, it talks about, I wish you were either hot or cold, but you're lukewarm and I just want to spit you out. And so what he's saying is you're going to have to make a choice. And as we get closer and closer to the kingdom, the lines are going to become more and more clearly defined.
Yeah.
And you have to decide which side of that line are you going to be on. And the reason that Israel is important in this is because if you're going to be on the right side of the line, it means that you love what he loves and you hate what he hates. And he loves the land of Israel. The noun Israel is mentioned in the Tanakh, the first 5 books, the Torah, the prophets, and the writings, over 2,500 times.
Wow.
And so if you're going to be on his side, you are going to love what he loves, and he loves the land of Israel. It does not take much of a scriptural study to figure that out. It is the apple of his eye. It is the place that he chose. And as a believer in Yeshua, Dad, I asked you this question the other day, of what is the most precious liquid that this earth has ever known? And it's the blood of Yeshua. It is the most precious liquid that has ever been on the planet. And the only place that we know of that his blood dripped into the earth was in the land of Israel. And so as a believer in Yeshua, in addition to a believer in the Tanakh, Genesis through Malachi or Second Chronicles, depending on your Bible, the importance of that land to us is it just exponentiates the more you think about it and the more you go with that. And so that is the question, is, are you going to be a person who follows him in every way and love what he loves and stand for what he loves? Because eventually you're going to have to make a decision. Because in the end, you're either with him or you're not.
Yeah.
And I think he will, he's a good God, and he's gracious, and he loves his people, and he understands that many people have been taught in a different way. Tons of people don't even know why Israel is important. And that's not necessarily their fault, but they're going to have to choose someday. It's going to become apparent someday.
Yeah. You talk about the blood that's shed. We talk on this program, we've talked numerous times about the kingdom. We mentioned the kingdom and the millennium over and over again. And, about looking toward that time. And we look in the scripture, and the kingdom is coming to the land of Israel. Okay. I don't know that anyone would argue. I guess somebody out there would argue, because people just argue. But it does not take much of a reading of scripture to see that the kingdom is coming to that land called Israel. And so in this week's Torah portion that I just taught this morning, and I didn't teach on this, it just kind of dawned on me. When Cain killed Abel, it says his blood was crying out. The blood that was spilled upon the land, and wherever that land was crying out. Today, the blood is once again crying, because the very rocks of Israel are being stained with the blood of people who are trying their best to follow the covenant. people that are doing the mitzvot, the good deeds. I just got to read this to you so I don't forget it. As I checked my phone because I saw, Daniel, it's your mom, and I know better than to just, not look at that. She wouldn't send me something right now if it wasn't important. And this is something that just came in on social media. An Orthodox Jewish man who preferred to remain anonymous stood quietly near the El Al counter at New York's JFK airport. Anyone who showed him an IDF call-up notice got his ticket paid for. That man paid for 250 tickets for IDF soldiers, Israelis, probably Israeli Americans that were here in the United States, and said, I'm going back and being a part of the battle. We need to understand, guys. People need to understand. It doesn't matter what your age. You're part of the battle. You are in the battle. The battle is raging. And a post I put up on Facebook yesterday, I guess it was from a very dear friend of mine and Daniel's, Joshua Waller. Josh wrote one song. He's only written one song in his whole life. He said to me a few years ago, he said, Mike, I've tried to write more songs. He says, I guess I only have one song in me. Well, if that's true, he wrote the song, because the song is, and I you can go on to YouTube, wherever, Josh Waller, A Line in the Sand. And it is, Where Are You Going to Stand? There's a line, and this song is over 10 years old. There's a line in the sand. Where are you going to stand? This is not a day that we're going to be able to straddle that line. I don't straddle lines real well anyway. You guys know that. I have no problem standing. But for those who have had a problem with compromise, and I just don't want to, I don't want to say something that may offend somebody. It's time to take a stand, because that blood that Yeshua, that Daniel was speaking of, was shed for you. He took a stand that cost him his life so that you and I can be redeemed. The least we can do is take a stand for him and for what he loves. You guys got anything? Go, just run with it.
I think I want to jump in on that point that you were making about the paid for 250 tickets. Is that what you said?
Yeah, that's like 1,800. Well, right now a ticket to Israel, I think, is running about $3,000.
Yeah, that's wild. But that's someone who's putting their money where their mouth is, and they're supporting people, and they're doing that. So I think we have to remember too this idea that, okay, why does this matter to us? Why does this matter in our grand scheme of it all? Well, we can look to Europe too, and we can see what's happening. When that was happening, there were outbursts in other cities. This isn't just a local event. This is not just only in Israel. This has the potential to go further and out further and do more things. Again, this is not out of fear. I'm not trying to come at this with fear. But a lot of times we get so desensitized because we think it's over 7,000 miles away. Whatever, that is over there. No, this is a worldwide thing. Everyone's tried to take a stab at doing the peace deal with them over there, and none of them have worked. There's been good attempts, but it's never worked. And eventually these things happen like they are right now. And I think that I don't know what the right word is. I've been trying to think about this because it's been on my mind like all day, understanding that we're going to be talking about today. Maybe Mike or Daniel, maybe you guys have a better idea of where I'm coming from with this. Is that it seems like there's a lot of people within faith, whether it be Christian, Messianic, Hebrew roots, whatever we're calling ourselves today, that it's now there's this opportunity for people to come out and take a crack at being, I don't know, anti-Semitic, maybe just taking a crack at people who live with neighbors that want to kill them. I'm understanding not all, but there's quite a few over there that want to kill. If they can just cross the border and kill, they will, as
yeah.
we've already seen with video.
Yeah.
What gives us the right over here in where we only face verbal abuse at this point to take a, I don't know. Do you guys get where I'm going with this? It seems like why are we taking stabs at Jewish people, especially Jewish people, but there's others, but why are we taking cracks at them when this is probably one of their lowest? Like they said, 6-Day War, no Israelis lost. They lost a lot of people. They lost a lot.
This is the worst. Like, to anyone who hasn't heard it as plainly as this is not just my words. This is the words of Jews. That this is the worst thing that has happened to Jews since the Holocaust.
Yeah.
Bar none. Like it is that simple. People are doing things that were done right now that were done during the Holocaust, and it is being celebrated around the world, America included.
Exactly.
And
Harvard,
the government, educational institutions, large corporations are celebrating, supporting. Countries are celebrating and supporting. And Israel, the government of Israel, is now really coming to terms with the price of not taking a firm stand.
Yeah.
Right.
Because a lot of what is happening right now, in a physical realm at least, is due to the impossible peace deals. It's not going to happen. It never will. It's not scriptural even. The land of Israel is the land of Israel, period. End of story. And so, but the attempt to do that, to make concessions, to give away the land, that is what created this mess, is not taking a firm stand. And I can't remember what I was gonna. Oh yeah, the other thing, like because you were saying, David, what gives us the right over here? And seriously, for any person who has used this as an opportunity to condemn Israel, the people within, to say that they're not who you think they are, any of this kind of stuff, absolute shame on you. It's despicable. And if any of one of our listeners sees someone doing that, you should openly condemn it, because it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. And there's no place for that.
Yeah.
Dietrich Bonhoeffer was abroad when World War II hit. And his statement was paraphrased: why would I enjoy the freedoms of my people if I don't also suffer with them? That was not the right quote, but it was something like that. He was saying, yeah. And so he went back to his country during World War II and he was executed. But he made the decision to stand. And I don't know, like, my spirit has been incredibly heavy, obviously, over the last few days, like just struggling with all this and asking these questions, like, what does this mean? What is my role in this? Why is it important to me? Just asking all these questions because it's important. And again, Dave, like you said, not out of a place of fear, because whatever happens to the earth must happen before Yeshua comes. He said that very clearly. And the prize that is on the other side of anything that happens will be exponentially, infinitely more amazing than anything we can go through on this earth. But just asking the question, what's my role? How far am I willing to go? When Yeshua says, if you deny me in front of men, I will deny you in front of my Father. And just that idea of taking that stand and throw the idea of like not being willing to step on toes and being afraid of offending people to the wind. This is what it produces. So I don't know. There's definitely lots and lots of feelings.
Let me go back to your quote, Daniel, because you of course know that first page of my scripture, I have taken the words of Dietrich Bonhoeffer and changed them slightly. And this is what I have written here. I have no right to participate in the fruit of restoration of his kingdom if I have not shared in the trials of its coming.
Mm.
Yep.
We are in the process of the trials of its coming. But if even you take prophecy out of this thing, you take all that out, it's still this is we have to ask ourselves a question. This is about it's about the land and all these kind of things that get in there. The question has to be asked: if a Jew does not have the right to live in the land of Israel, does a Jew have a right to live anywhere?
Mm.
And so in the end, it is not just a biblical thing. And I can go into for hours and hours the politics of all of this and how the media has spun all of it, and the Palestinians and Gaza and all of these things. I was there just before the Gaza pullout. And America does not have, the United States is not without blood on our hands today, because it was the Oslo Accords with Bill Clinton sitting there between the Yasser Arafat and was it Rabin? I believe it was. And it was in the Oslo Accords that the Palestinians were given the right to own firearms. Prior to that time, they were not. Push forward. Ariel Sharon, 2005. As I said, I was in Israel 3 weeks prior to the Gaza pullout. I was there at the prayer meeting at the Western Wall. That was the Bush administration that pressured, in many ways, Ariel Sharon to give up the Gaza to the Palestinians, who came in and desecrated that land, turned it from what was known as the Riviera of Israel into a terrorist hotbed, with Hamas running it by 2007. So every one of those rockets, every one of those firearms, every bullet coming out of a gun has, in a way, American responsibility. Every missile coming out of Gaza, the thousands now. And that is not even to talk about the 140,000, it is thought, 140,000 rockets that are in Lebanon, Syria, aimed at Israel. We've come out of Sukkot. Nobody tried to kill me today. I went to Walmart, got out of there without, a scratch on me. A couple things in town. I got a warm bed last night, tonight. There's Israelis that have not slept in their bed for a week. Since last Saturday. They've not slept in there. They've been sleeping in a bomb shelter. They've had to they can't go outside. The horrific things that are going on in that land right now, we do not have a taste of. But I don't want to produce fear in what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say this very definitely, because I've been teaching on Islam and as a religion, all of these things for probably longer than many of our listeners have been alive. So I know a few things about it. If we do not stand with our brothers and sisters in Israel today, and one day this comes to our doorstep, my doorstep, if I have not stood with my brothers and sisters in Israel, do I really believe that when I cry out to the Almighty, that He's going to stand with me in that moment? Your response?
Definitely, it varies, because I've been paying attention to some of the stuff that's been happening now, and if we're ever to get close enough to it being over here, there's a lot of the Free Palestine movement is found in our educational systems. It's gotten a very stronghold there. So if you are going to school you are probably going to be the one faced with it first out of anybody, is that. And that's where your decision is going to have to be, is where you're going to stand. Are you going to stand up and show solidarity with Israel, or are you going to just not say anything because they have enough people that they can make a noise? But can you imagine if the silent majority stood up and said, nah, we're not about this at all? Because I've been seeing more and more evidence to show that people that don't even pay attention, they've just sided with Palestine because of whatever. But now, because of these articles coming out, they're starting to go, hold up, wait a minute. So you're telling me a music festival that was for Palestine was raided from Hamas, and they were what? What do you mean? What, that means they went after their own, essentially? Like, what is this? People of the world that were trying to support them, that were trying to raise awareness, they sure did raise awareness. And now it's come out to show this kind of ugliness. And of course, you'll never have people that will not stop talking about this. But can you imagine if we had the same enthusiasm to stand against them? Those who are saying stuff like that, those who are constantly screaming on the street corners like this, wearing Palestinian flags and whatnot. Again, nothing, no hatred towards Palestinian people, none for them. Hamas, that's what it's being bred. This hatred, this murderous, demonic attitude towards another group of people has no place. No place at all.
Let me insert something, Daniel, before I turn it over to you. That David, just go to what you said. There is, and I know what you were saying. I just want to correct for the record here.
Okay.
There is no such thing as Palestine.
Understood.
Yeah, this is the two-state solution. There is not a country. There is not a people. There is not a coinage of Palestine specifically. There are a people that have been called Palestinian. Okay.
Right.
So I just want to correct that just for the record for the program. Daniel?
Yes.
It says in Romans 15, verse 1, so we who are strong have a duty to bear the weaknesses of those who are not strong rather than please ourselves. And when I glanced down further in the chapter, I also saw that verse 7 says, so welcome each other just as the Messiah has welcomed you into God's glory. For I say that the Messiah became a servant of the Jewish people in order to show God's truthfulness by making good his promises to the patriarchs. That's interesting.
Yeah.
It's just a crucial moment. And because, Dad, like you said, you were alive during the Yom Kippur War, though you weren't really aware of anything regarding that. But now we are aware of everything that's going on. And, none of us at this point in time, this thing is a few days old. And none of us know where this is going to go.
Yeah.
If anybody tells you they know exactly where this is going to go, they're lying, possibly, most likely. Or they just, have been misled.
Or they're trying to get money on their YouTube channel.
Yes. So, just as a warning to any of our listeners, tread carefully and be very aware. Be aware of what's going on in Israel, in America. Be aware that things are not always as they seem anywhere. To this point, America has done a decent job of supporting Israel, but like you said, Dad, this is you could barely say that it's, I don't know, you could almost say it's obligatory because of the things that we've done America has done to support Iran and give all these things, these resources.
Yeah.
So just remember that all nations will come against Israel. It doesn't say that every human will come against Israel. It says all nations, all people groups. But if you are a people group that identifies with Israel, then obviously you're exempt from that. So just be aware that none of us really know what this is going to look like. None of us know what the end, whatever that means, is going to look like. all that we really need to do is know that we have a duty to speak up and do what we can to help the weak, as it says. And right now, Israel they're not weak, but they are being attacked. And we should do our part in whatever way we can, financial support, being good ambassadors and speaking up when needed. But yeah, I don't know exactly where I was going.
Okay, so Daniel, let me throw this out. What can we do? Okay, I mean, you talk about donations, and that's, there are scams out there already. I know that because you know that we donate a lot of money to Israel. So if people want to do that, they can contact me, and I put my reputation on the line regarding this one of the dollars that go to Israel. I just sent a rather large donation today. But watch out for the emotional scams that are out there. I want to tell people and I'm going to turn this to you guys in just a moment, regarding what can we do. But guys, to me, this is not a time for me to put, an Israel flag on my bumper of my car. I stand with Israel, and I'm not backing down in any way, but I'm also not going to get into a fist fight or worse in a Walmart parking lot. Okay. And end up in jail. We need to be smart in how we show our support to Israel and to the Jewish people. So, guys, how can we do that?
Well, for one, we all know that we can pray. It's an act of faith. Hopefully we've all been through instances where we know that prayer works, does change the spiritual atmosphere. I was thinking about this today, that the land of Israel has been attacked, and the land of Israel and the people of Israel are inseparable, physically and spiritually. And so if you are part of Israel biblically, then you are also being attacked right now. And I would imagine that if you think about that statement, some things will start to make sense of why you've been the way you've been the past few days. It certainly was a revelation for me. And so the enemy is coming after your prayers by attacking you as part of Israel right now. And we must remain vigilant in that way to not despair. Because one of the things I said on that text message last Shabbat when everyone came over was, we do not serve a God that is too short, that whose arm is too short to help. He hears our prayers and he acts on them. Vengeance is mine, says Adonai, says the Lord. And we can pray, and that helps things. And the enemy obviously is coming after that, so make sure you stay vigilant in that way. But, obviously financially, nothing, I just want to remind people, myself included, that none of the no thing that we have belongs to us. No amount of money that we have belongs to us. It all belongs to God. He asks for a tenth because he wants us to contribute and to be a part of his kingdom in that way. But this is if you find a trustworthy place to give your money to it and give it in faith, that God sees that, and he 100% will bless that. You don't have to worry about how much you give. You're not going to give too much, because he sees that. And this isn't prosperity gospel, but it's coming back to you because this is a moment that is critical and people need your help financially. And so, those two things for sure. But I want to jump back to, I just remember what I was going to say earlier, of just touching on why Israel matters and why all this matters. If Israel and the Jewish people did not matter so much, then why on earth why are they persecuted more than any other civilization, any other people group in the history of the earth? There's no other civilization that has been persecuted as much as they have from start to finish. And if the enemy was not interested in them to wipe them off the face of the planet, then they wouldn't be important. But he does. He continually goes after them, and them specifically. And Christians as well. Yes, they are very persecuted worldwide as well. But that's because we're all part of the same family. And so that's just, something I wanted to say earlier. So,
David?
I think that just like Daniel was saying too, prayer is super important when we do not know what to do. Financially, basically chipping into the pot, essentially to say, hey, I'm in. Deal me in. I'm a part of this, and I want to be a part of the solution rather than just just sitting back and just watching and seeing how this unfolds. And that's extremely appetizing thing to do, is just sit back and watch. Just let's see how far this goes. It's not about watching that. It's about continuing to pray for and to stand up when those opportunities arise. Just like Mike was saying, this is not to get into a fight over actual altercation where you end up having to go to jail or something. No one's saying violence like that. No, it is saying to stand for truth, because if enough people stand for truth, things start to happen. All it takes is one, and then another, and things start to change and things start to happen. We're already seeing how truth is starting to prevail and cut through all the lies that the enemy has tried to persuade many people on. We're already seeing that truth is winning. Truth is starting to find a way through this, even as hard and as difficult as it is to find out what's really happening. I think whenever you see someone trying to take this as an advantage to promote a teaching, promote something, shame on you. I'm going to reiterate what we've already said here. Shame on you. This is not the time for that. This is something, not to even mention, this is not a military on military attacking. This is a military attacking families in their homes. Understand, wrap your head around that idea. These militant people came in, again, militant, demonic, barbaric, evil people came in and killed people that had nothing to do with the politics, decision making, none of it. Captured people to try to use them as pawns, and thinks that the world should stand for them too. No, that's not how this world plays anymore.
Yeah.
We have to say, no, this is enough. And again, I want to go back to, you got to pray for where you can chip in. You might actually have the opportunity where God's saying it's time for you to go. Do not fear. I think of all the things we talked about is you got to stand for Israel. Don't fear though. I understand your fear if you live over there right now, or if you find yourself listening to this. Hang in there. I know that this can definitely be very scary, but this is not time for fear, especially for us over here. This is not time for fear. This should embolden us to stand on truth, embolden us to say we've got truth and we're standing on truth. So this is not time for fear. Even with we've said this over and over again. Sometimes the prophecy thing has been so spoken about so much that I become deaf to it.
Yeah.
The prophecy thing of this is the interesting part. It is not to be like, oh, let's sit back and look at prophecy. No. This is a time to actually say, no, this is what Israel's in the right. We need to stand with Israel, because we don't know how far this is going to go. Mm-hmm. We don't know how many other nations are going to chip in to go against Israel. There's a lot of rumors, but we don't know. So again, God judges those who come against his land. God judges.
Yeah. You don't want to be on the wrong side of this.
Yeah, we're going to see.
You talk about going to the land. I have my tour guide and close friend, Hanok Young. I will actually, for those that like more information about some of the nuts and bolts of this, if they're subscribed to my Vimeo channel, my YouTube channel, various places, they can go to joined To Hashem. That's JoinedToHashem.org. I do an Israel update with Hanok. I'll be doing that tomorrow morning, God willing. Mm-hmm. And so we're putting out, information. He lives in Modi'in, Israel. And so he had as of last week, he had 5 tours scheduled for the next month and a half. 4 of them have canceled. I just got off. I just got a message from him before we went online that 4 of those have canceled. The one that has not canceled is my tour, the Connect Israel tour, that is scheduled to leave November 5th. I have 25 days, and I refuse to cancel to the last minute. if they will let me in the land, and I'm hearing back from the 29 other people that are going with me, they're like, we're in, we're going. And if that happens, it happens. A couple of things, and I'm going to turn it over to you guys for closing words here, is the whole concept of, we see a lot of things on social media. I would like to caution people, take a breath before you post something. You see some news article, take a breath, get some counsel. There's a lot of disinformation out there. You get in a conversation with someone, be careful about what you're talking about, and watch out for your own emotion. I had a guy that's a friend of mine. I saw him just a couple of days ago, and I walked into a place, and a number of guys were there that I knew. And they were all like, okay, Mike, tell us what's going on, because they know that I'm, kind of the Israel person there. And one of them, well-meaning man, said, well, I think Israel should just go in and wipe them out. I looked at him and said, and are you willing to send your children? Are you willing to send your grandchildren? It's his attitude. Well, just go in and carpet bomb. Well, what if it's your infant child that is being held hostage in one of those tunnels next to those rockets? What if it's your grandmother, your grandfather? What if it's your spouse that got taken hostage and is in one of those tunnels? Are you that quick to just say, let's just go wipe them out? These are real people, ladies and gentlemen. These are real people that are going through struggles. One of the things I would urge you to do is take your phone and go to the app store or whatever you use and download an app called Red Alert. Red Alert gives you an alert every time a rocket goes up from Gaza or from Lebanon. And I dare you to turn it off without asking yourself a question. Israel can't turn their app off because it's not an app, it's the real thing. And I mean, I hear this thing, it hasn't gone off in hours. And I'm like, thank God. We were at Revive and it was going off during that time too. So download that app. It will put you in the mix. I think it's impossible to stay on the sidelines when you're hearing the rockets, and just imagine that you live in Ashkelon or Sderot or various places, and that rocket is coming toward you. It might help you learning how to pray, by the way. Closing words, guys?
Dave said earlier that this should embolden us, and I believe that's true. And also, like you said, I meant to mention this as well, that I've seen many people already using prophecy to, biblical prophecy, just kind of picking verses and using that to say, like, we're at the end. But just remember, like, we don't know. No man knows, not even the Son, only the Father, And so just what we need to do is walk each day. And Yeshua included that in his prayer that he taught to the disciples of, give us this day our daily bread, knowing that our faith is one of a day-by-day basis, not a week-by-week or a month-by-month or so on. We need faith for today, and we need to follow him in that sense, and asking him, what do we do today? And that's the only way to do this, because anything else will lead to fear, or will lead to just a wrong perception of what is to come. So let us all just increase our faith on a day-by-day basis.
Yeah, I think just jumping off of that, just be emboldened to stand on truth. I think we already know what the end of this whole thing is going to be. We already know the Lord's going to be victorious in this entire endeavor. He will be victorious. His glory will be made manifest. It will happen. But it does not mean that that's the only thing we look to. we understand it, but then we realize that we're gonna have to probably have to get our hands dirty. And I just pray and hope that you won't just sit back and just, okay, let me just watch and see what happens. Instead, make this a moment to actually stand up and get into the fight. Whether it could be a moment where you could be around family members and say, hey, guess what? You're actually incorrect on that. I have information to prove otherwise. This is what's happening. And or to just continue to stand on that truth of like Mike mentioned briefly for me, like we've been so indoctrinated thinking that Palestine is a real thing. And that was a media manufactured thing that just to try to create that there's this whole dynamic happening. In reality, it isn't. In reality, that's not the case at all. And I would challenge you. I think this is a big thing too. If you don't know a lot about this, it's a great time to start digging into resources to understanding how long this thing has been going on. Because this is not a recent thing. This is centuries and centuries. And everyone thinks they can take a crack and stab at figuring this out. But we already know the final answer is going to be when his kingdom comes. May it be soon in our day. So we already know that, but to understand it so that when people spew stuff at you, you can stand again on truth and go, actually, that's incorrect. Let me point you to the right direction. And this is where we can financially support somebody, like, especially when people are like, I'm ready to go, I'm ready to move, I'm ready to do something. Or you could be like that one Jewish fellow that was at the airport and was like, hey, are you going to Israel? I'm buying your ticket. It's done. I would challenge you. You might be a part of a community where there's someone that says, I gotta go. I have to go. I would challenge you guys to support them. And of course with prayer, but to support them financially then as well. So you know what, we're sending you then. Go fight on our behalf as well, or go be a relief or something, whatever that may be. It might not be to go fight, it might be to be there for relief or to figure out how to get support to them or whatever you got to do. So I think I would just want to say that. Just don't be in fear. Stand on truth.
There's plenty of needs there, and I'd be glad to help anybody out in if they would like to be a part of those needs in Israel. Learn the history. Yeah, we had the privilege of having Hanok Young here at Life Assembly just a few months ago, and he did a message on Israel, modern day Israel, the borders, the Green Line, the two-state, all this kind of stuff. And before we went online, it's of course night there in Israel, but I've asked him if he has that available to where I can post it online, because it was a great thumbnail about what Israel is and why we should be standing. So God willing, that'll be on my Facebook site pretty soon if he has that resource available. Well, guys, thank you so much. In the end, he knows the plans he has for us and for Israel, plans for good and not for evil, to give us a future and a hope. And that future and a hope is inseparable between us and the people in the land of Israel. Till next week. Blessings, guys.
You alone hear my every prayer. You're the God who's always